On the bench today we have this Uher 4200 report monitor, battery powered, open reel deck. It's a friend's, he got it off eBay I think, and said that the part of the recording wasn't working. Maybe one channel I think he said wasn't working, but thought we'd have a look at this. I've never investigated these machines. It's very nicely built, very sturdy, heavy for portable machine actually. Battery powered, it's running off at the moment. 3 heads, multiple speeds. It's running at 9.5 centimeters per second at the moment, and you've got this selector which goes through a stop position for every position of speed. So this is actually recorded at 9.5. So you can see it playing back on the left channel, and that's controlled by this switch here. If we turn that to M2, I don't know what the M stands for, but that now is playing on the right channel, and up to the top here will show you both channels. Recorded quite hot, or the calibration is wrong, I'm not sure, but yeah, it's averaging into the red. So we've got a battery tester there, and a light which you can turn on and off. That's nice. Input controls for recording level there, overall volume, but this tone control here has a switch in it which pulls out to turn on the internal speaker, which is just up there, so that's quite nice. Various microphone inputs and a little switch on the right here. I think that's to change between two separate mics or one. And yeah, the only other thing to mention maybe is this pause control is a bit odd. Instead of a switch that you press again to release, you actually just have to push it up like that. So it's a little bit unusual. And well, the playback is fine, so I'll have to test the recording. The side has various inputs for phono and monitor, and the headphones here. I'm not sure what the difference is between these, but I needed to make up a little adapter for a 180 degree DIN into phono. None of my equipment has DINs anymore. The sort of 70s and 80s stuff did for both left and right, in and out on the same socket here. So anyway, I think the next step is to just test it on a bit of tape and put a signal in and see if we can see what the recording is doing. So here we see the problem. So I've got a source mini disc here just into the input. I've got a tape selector here to a particular speed that's not 0, record selected, and here we can select the stereo, second channel, first channel, and we would expect this input to be monitoring those channels, and only the second, I'm going to call right channel, is working. We've got independent controls here, so that works. The master control here is very stiff, that central control, but it does alter the volume. But the left hand channel, whatever I do there, doesn't seem to work. So I think at the very least I want to put some contact cleaner and lubricant on this pot, and we've got to work out where the signal is getting to. Maybe don't know actually what the problem would be, but I think we need to open it up and see how far it gets. Yeah, let's do that now. I turned it over to find the screws, and there seems to be only one, so that's rather convenient. And with the back open, we can see we've got a large lead acid battery here, which will contribute to its weight, and not sure what that is, just a piece of insulation, and yes, some circuit boards. Alright, let's take some screws out and see if we can get to the front for a start, and yeah, just generally see what we can see for the record amplifier. Yeah, see where that is. Well, this is what it looks like with the covers off. Yeah, pretty densely packed circuits. Nice little sort of double board here, containing a bunch of CMOS 4000 logic. Have to see what that does on the circuit. And little boards squeezed in here, daughter boards on here, so that's rather compact. And the mechanism here, this flywheel here is driven by this wheel here, which has several different diameter parts to it, and then that will act as a gearing ratio dependent on the speed, and then it all turns from this point here with the motor. The belt is sort of okay. I mean, we saw it turn and so on, so it's kind of working. It might do with a newer belt maybe soon, but that's not really why we're here. I mean, for serviceability, actually, it's not bad for this board. That just pivots up after the release of one screw, so that's pretty good actually. And so in the future, just taking off the lid and this board lifting up would give you access to the belt, so that wouldn't be a terribly hard job. But now I've got to figure out where the input amplifier is. So, well, the input will come in here, so I guess I can start tracing where these inputs go. That would be the next thing to do, I think. Yeah, those signals. Okay, so just an update on what I found so far. I've got the input there from the mini disc coming into the DIN input here, and I'm monitoring there on the monitor output. So on the circuit, which is probably quite hard to see, this is the input, goes through these multi-stage buffers, volume controls, master and individual channels, and then a single stage output, emitter follower. So I can see that there's signal on the volume control side here going into that last buffer. That is the point where I sort of lose the signal. It's rather hard to poke around here. This is the volume control board and the buffers, and right inside underneath there is the output stage, and I can't quite see or get to that. I can't even really see where the output is on this board. I may have to take that out. But I know at least on the volume controls here we're getting signal. So that's one point. On the monitor, we've obviously got access to the monitor output there, and I can see the output on the scope on the working channel, but not on the faulty channel. So on the circuit, the monitor output is over here, and that means that I really need to check these buffers here. So it could be a fault in these stages. Then there's some switching circuit here. These JFETs could be those at fault. They are both led down here to the CMOS logic, so this should be okay because they're both feeding from the same line, so they're not independent left and right. So I think what we're left to find is either the output of this stage, those switches, or this buffer stage. So maybe I'm going to have a look at this, see if I can find this, because I think that should be on this main board, which at least if I can find it I'll have easier access to. The biggest problem is that there is no markings at all on either the component side or the PCB, so it's kind of guesswork and it's rather hard to trace all of these nicely wrapped and tied up cables, but I think that's the next task. So I've been looking at these cables that come off this volume control board, the brown and yellow here, and on the other side you can't see here, but with a bit of difficulty I was able to see there's a red and a black. Don't know which of these are the outputs, but the red and the yellow, the innermost there, I think they end up here on the main board, and I can see a signal on the red, I can't see a signal on the yellow. So if that's right, that would correspond over here on the circuit to signal coming out and into here onto the main board, the red working and the yellow no signal here. So that would imply, since we've got signal at the volume control here, we're looking at something in this last stage. So I think I'm going to have to take out this board here, which means taking out the front panel. I think that'll be the next thing to investigate. Alright, so I've had to disassemble this a bit further because I couldn't see properly the bottom of this board where the outputs came, so I couldn't correspond whatever cables came onto the main board, which would have been easier to scope. So I really wanted to see where the signal went from the side of the pots here through this 22k resistor, which are these here. So I could see the signal there, but needed to test this emitter follower stage. So I was able to disassemble this just enough to get the nuts off. I still don't know how to take that one off, maybe just more force than I was willing to put on it, but anyway I was able to, as you see, just get enough play there to get this off. So yeah, that's the stage that is the emitter follower buffer. That capacitor there, that blue tantalum there, is the final capacitor here, so we're definitely not getting anything on the output side, and on the scope we seem to be getting signal going in, so now I'm suspicious about that 4.7 microfarad, so I'm going to take that out and see if that is faulty. So here's the blue tantalum I've taken out, and if we see what it's reading, it reads nothing, so it's an open, so no surprise that there was no signal coming out of that emitter follower. And I've put a replacement in there, slightly bigger one, but you can see both meters are reading, so that is fixed. I was going to say job done, but I've got to put it all back together again now. But yeah, that was the issue there on the left channel, so hopefully that's pretty much the main problem on this unit. Just a note about this cover here, 2 screws, and it gives you access to the heads. You can loosen this, but it brings the heads up, and well, you can get the heads there just to clean, and the pinch roller as well, so I've just had a clean of those. Just one more thing, once I'd got everything back, the rear plate on and right side up and testing it and so on, I found intermittently that the main power control, the speed control on the motor on off, would just intermittently fail. I mean, it would just stop working for 10 minutes or something, or I'd keep moving it, and it would be nothing, and then suddenly it would spring to life and work for a bit and then stop again, and so on. I spent a long time trying to work out where the switch was. I could obviously see this mechanism here, which uses various plastic ridges, and I knew from the circuit that that was going to control the settings for the tape speed, so equalization and so on. But for some reason I got it in my head that all three were for the different speeds. But actually we've got just 4 speeds. So you only need 2 bits of information. So the other one must be the power, the main power on off. So I felt a bit stupid when I realised that. I spent a long time trying to find something that didn't exist. Anyway, I've just cleaned those with a bit of contact cleaner on this piece of paper and rubbed it sort of back and forth between those contacts, and hopefully that is working now, but we'll have to see with a longer time period and once the case is on and so on, whether that works for a reasonable period of time. Anyway, yeah, that's probably worth giving it a clean when that's open. So here we have it, recording from the mini disc, and because it's 3-head machine, we can flip between the source coming in and the tape live with a slight delay between the heads. So that is good, so you can do an A-B comparison. So yeah, it sounds pretty good, really, considering its age. So the lowest 2 speeds, obviously the frequency response is poorer and the noise is poorer, particularly at the bottom speed, very noticeably poor. This is quite acceptable at 4.7. The top 2 speeds, I mean, they should be the lowest noise and highest frequency response and just generally best performance. I do find, though, the top 2 speeds, when doing an A-B comparison with the source and tape, too bright. So I'm wondering whether there's another fault, whether the equalization is not working properly. When it changes tape, the position of the switch here should control some CMOS logic, which controls some BJTs, which pull in various parts of a filter network. So I'm wondering whether some of that is not working. I'm kind of like in 2 minds now whether to open it up again and have another look. But I mean, it is certainly working well on this speed, so partly it depends on whether my friend needs the top 2 speeds, whether he's worried about extra high frequency emphasis or not. Yeah, anyway, for this video I think we'll call that finished. Of course, I couldn't leave that suspiciously bad equalization alone, and I dug into the circuit a bit more and poked around, and so this is what I found. So these daughter boards, this one and this one, are the equalization for the record and playback, and they have a bunch of capacitors and resistors, as you can see, and some BJTs which are pulling down the grounds of the capacitors to bring them into circuit based on 4 DC signals, 1 for each of the 4 tape speeds. So that's how it selects different equalization per speed. Okay, so where do those 4 DC lines come from? Well, here we've got a CMOS 4555 2-bit multiplexer decoder, and so that takes in inputs from the switches over here. So the leftmost switch is just the power for the motor, and these two provide basically a binary number, either 00, 1001 or 11, based on the plastic cam, and then that feeds into the A and B inputs of the multiplexer chip, and that then outputs on one of 4 lines. So the truth table, the switches look like this. So open and closed K5, K6 switches correspond to the A and B inputs on the multiplexer chip. It's actually a dual multiplexer, and they've just paralleled the inputs and outputs. And this is how the switches are arranged, just with a pull down, and then the switch goes up to 4.9 volts. So what it's supposed to do, the A and B inputs are supposed to be, say, 1, as in closed for the lowest speed, and let's say for 9.5 centimeters per second, they're closed and open, which corresponds to 1 and 0. But this small number here indicates what I actually measured on the chip. So as you can see, it looks like the B input is stuck high. So it's always high, even when it should be low here, at the 2 faster speeds, which is where we had the equalization problem. That's where I was hearing too much top end. So that would explain the equalization problem. What I've yet to find out is what is the problem on the inputs. I don't think the CMOS chip would have a problem on the inputs. I don't think inputs tend to go problematic. Don't think I've ever encountered that. So I'm going to disconnect the wire to the switch and see if there's something wrong with the little micro switch. I mean, it looks okay visually, and it seems to measure okay, so I'm not sure, but I'm going to isolate it because it's easy to do, and then we'll see. I mean, if necessary, I will take this out and replace it. So I found the problem. It's this middle micro switch, just a mechanical problem. If you see, hopefully you can see on the camera, there's a bit of play like that, so it sticks up and makes contact all the time, independent of position. The other one doesn't move. So I don't know how I'm going to fix that, but I'll see what I can do. So I did manage to fix the little springy piece of metal, I think. I mean, I'm not really sure what I did, to be perfectly honest. I sort of removed the little springs and gently pushed them around and pushed the piece of metal that comes out with the contact on, and just very gently until it is in a slightly different position, and now it seems to work. I did have a bit of a schoolboy error. Taking off one of them, it just sprang up like a spring, and I couldn't tell where it went, looking all over the floor for ages, and I even started to try and fashion my own replacement, but then I figured, well, maybe it's gone down inside, and I disassembled a bit more and indeed found it. So that was a panic which I was able to get over. So yep, that I think is going to work, so now I just need to test it. So there we have it, working quite nicely, and I think we'll call that a job done. Thanks for watching.